role. Mr. Speaker, this bill is also guided by Article 50 of the Constitution that talks about fair hearing of the witnesses that appear before Parliament. If I may go to the depth of the bill, Mr. Speaker, this bill seeks to amend Section 19 and 33 of Parliamentary Powers and Privileges Act to provide a mechanism by which an order of arrest may be executed by Parliament itself. Mr. Speaker, we have had scenarios where some witnesses who have been summoned by various committees to appear have decided not to appear. A case in point is the governors in the last Senate who never appeared before parliamentary committees. And Parliament issued summons, those summons were ignored, and the police could not enforce those summons. So, Mr. Speaker, then that puts Parliament in a very dangerous situation. That yes, your standing orders provides for the summoning of witnesses, but you do not have the powers to arrest. So what do? If the Inspector General of Police refuses to arrest, what does Parliament do? I remember at some point, Mr. Speaker, some senators, I think maybe in the third Senate or second Senate, were forced to go to the office of the Inspector General to find out what was happening, because all the summons that were issued were not being enforced by the police. So this bill seeks to give Parliament the powers to arrest in a situation where the police are not able to do that for one reason or another. Mr. Speaker, the Inspector General of Police, who is also the head of the National Police Service, this bill gives him the power to the specific provision to help in the arrest. But also, it also goes ahead and says a member of staff duly authorized by the Speaker or the clerk can do that. Mr. Speaker, I know in the last Parliament there was a proposal to amend the Parliamentary Service Act so that we can have a unit of police in this House. But that has not been implemented, Mr. Speaker. So in this case, this bill will give us the option that in the event the Inspector General of Police is not able to enforce our summon through arrest, then we can do it ourselves through the direction of the Speaker or the clerk. And Mr. Speaker, this is important because if we don't do that, we will reach a point where people will not come to our committees. We will issue summons and they will not come, and they will collude with the police and they will never come. And that has happened before in this House. And we will be at 2-3. This bill gives us more teeth so that the people who don't appear before us, we are able to follow the law, follow our standing orders, and arrest them. I know issues have been raised about when you arrest them, so what? Mr. Speaker, I think that is an issue that can be looked at administratively by this House. But the power to arrest, it is very important that we should have it. Mr. Speaker, the bill goes further to say that the fines that we usually charge, those who don't honor our summons, we usually charge 5,000 shillings. But this bill proposes that amount is too low, we increase it to 2 million shillings. And that money, in the case of an individual fails to appear before us, should be paid by that person, not by the county government or by that institution where that person is heading. So, Mr. Speaker, this will be a bigger pain to them because most of them have been coming. You tell them about 500 and they easily pay it. But, Mr. Speaker, if we enhance the fine to 2 million shillings, I think that will be a heavy burden to them, and the cost of not appearing before Senate or before National Assembly will be higher. So people will be compelled to appear before us. Mr. Speaker, this bill, though someone may argue that it is too punitive, but the bill provides that the process will be fair. And the provisions of Article 50 will be followed. Mr. Speaker, I think we must appreciate one thing. The Constitution gives this House immense powers under Article 125 to summon everyone under the sun. Everyone under the sun, including even the President. This House has the powers to summon anyone to appear before this House. And if for any one reason that person does not come, after several invitations as per our standing orders, and we issue summons, we have the powers to go further than that and arrest that person to come before us, if the police are not able to do that. We are going to have the powers to have a higher fine. In fact, some people told me that this 2 million is still too low. We should have increased it to maybe 5 million or even 10 million, so that the people can see the pain. Mr. Speaker, you will agree with me that the basis of this amendment is to protect the supremacy of Parliament. Is to protect the supremacy of Parliament. It is very disappointing that our committees work so hard. They invite witnesses, and witnesses just decide to stay at home, not to appear before us.
Yes, what is your point of order?
Mr. Speaker, Senator, if you could yield. I raise understanding order number 105. The Senator is articulating a very important issue. He has told us, Mr. Speaker, that if the police refuse to arrest, we arrest ourselves. Mr. Speaker, could he substantiate so that we understand what he means? Is it that the sergeant at arms will arrest, or the members of the committee will go and arrest, or the chairman? We just want to be clear as we support you, because we need these people to come before us. Could you clarify?
Senator Boni.
Yes.
Senator Sotsi is yet to conclude his moving remarks. If you could be a little bit patient, maybe those concerns will be addressed before he concludes. Kindly proceed, Senator.
Mr. Speaker, I think my good brother, Senator Boni, knows that even the citizens have powers to arrest. That's why we have citizens arrest. But in this case, I will kindly ask him to read the bill, because the bill is proposing that the clerk and or the speaker may cause the arrest of these witnesses. It is in the bill. So I ask you to read the bill, which you get more details about it. Mr. Speaker, the Powers and Privilege Act is a very important instrument for this House. because it helps us to perform our duties, and it is an act that, if we really want to enhance the powers of this House, it is an act where we need to go and seek amendments. I am aware Senator Mugatana has proposed amendment to this act as well, to try and make sure that the resolutions we make in this House are implemented by the relevant agencies. This particular amendment, Mr. Speaker, it is going to enhance that. It is going to enhance our powers. We are not the ones who are going to arrest, but the institution of Parliament is going to do that, under the Speaker or the Clerk, as per the Act. Mr. Speaker, I don't want to belabor this, because this is a very small bill, to ask the members to support this bill, and this bill will make our work here very productive, because the current scenario, it is a scenario that it is very annoying, very frustrating, and very demeaning to this House, where witnesses are invited and they refuse to come. And if the police don't take any action, we are incapacitated, we can't do much. So, Mr. Speaker, I beg to move, and I ask my good friend, the Senator of Nairobi, Edwin Sifuna, to second.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to second the bill. Mr. Speaker, I am privileged to serve in 3 very powerful committees of this House. One of them is the Senate Energy Committee. Mr. Speaker, following the incident at Mradi in Embakasi East a few days ago, we as the Senate Energy Committee determined that we needed to speak to those who are responsible for the licensing of installations such as those that caused the tragedy in Embakasi East. And we started by inviting the Cabinet Secretary for Energy, Mr. Davis Chirchir, to appear before our committee this morning. Mr. Speaker, needless to say, I arrived at the venue of a meeting on time, together with my colleagues, the Chairman, Honorable Matinga, the Senator of Nyeri, together with the Member of Parliament for Embakasi East, Honorable Babu Owino. Mr. Speaker, we were shocked to be notified that a letter was dispatched to the committee last night, the 13th of February, that the Cabinet Secretary was out of the country, and that is all we were told. Of course, even though invitations were extended to the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority, there was no mention of whether they were in the country or whether they even received our communication or anything. There was nobody from EPRA. There was nobody from the county government of Nairobi. So we were seated there, Mr. Speaker, looking like people who don't have work to do, with no witnesses to appear before us. Mr. Speaker, I also serve in the Senate Transport and Housing Committee, which is chaired very ably by the Senator for Kiambu. Mr. Speaker, you know that this thing called affordable housing is all the rage in the country right now. There is no county in Nairobi, in Kenya currently, where there are more proposed housing developments than Nairobi. Mr. Speaker, as we speak in this county, we have earmarked 13 county government estates, the old city council estates, for redevelopment. Mr. Speaker, you would expect that in a county such as this, where projects of that magnitude are happening, robust conversation is had with the county government of Nairobi and with the citizens and the residents of the affected areas, so that when this project is done, I will not stand here again and read a report similar to the one our committee read on the Buxton project in Mombasa. Would you believe it, Mr. Speaker, that even after writing invitations, summons to the county governor of Nairobi, Honorable Sakaja, on 5 different instances, Governor Sakaja has refused, failed, and or neglected to appear before the Housing Committee of the Senate. People, the residents of these estates, they come very early to our committees because these committees offer hope, a channel for them to be heard. If you listen to the leadership of Afa Jericho, one of the estates, Mr. Speaker, they have never been listened to by the county government. What the county government calls public participation, in the view of the residents of Jericho, is not public participation. They have never been consulted on this project. And yet, Mr. Speaker, they are the ones who are supposed to cede their land that they have lived on for years, even before some of us were born, for this project to go ahead. And yet, when we summon the county governor, he doesn't appear. So what are we supposed to do as members of the committee and senators in this House? Which is why, Mr. Speaker, I want to very strongly urge our colleagues in this House. This is a frustration we all go through in our committees and even in this House. Mr. Speaker, I also serve in the Senate Business Committee. We sit down, we receive questions for cabinet secretaries from our colleagues, and we are at pains to schedule these questions because we can see that many of the cabinet secretaries will at times send word to the Speaker a day before they are scheduled to appear before this House that they are not coming to appear. I was looking at the schedule of questions yesterday. Some of the questions, Mr. Speaker, relate to matters that are long gone. Even if the CS appeared now, it will not be a current conversation to have in the Republic today. Mr. Speaker, what is this House supposed to do? Therefore, I want to say that given my short experience in the time that I've been a senator for Nairobi, I strongly suggest and I very strongly urge members of this House to support these amendments. Mr. Speaker, there was an incident I've never forgotten where one of the committees imposed the fine that is currently on the books of 500,000 shillings. And a governor asked our committee clerk, does the committee have a pay bill number or a till number? Because the amount imposed is so minimal, it can fit on your M-Pesa account. So money for them is not a problem. They would rather ignore summons of the House and summons of the committees and then ask the committee, who is your treasurer? Where can I send this money? What is the M-Pesa number? So for Senator Osotsi to propose that this fine be enhanced to at least 2 million shillings, I think this is something that is welcome and we must all support. Mr. Speaker, we have also struggled to facilitate this arrest. In fact, Mr. Speaker, for as long as this House and the institution of Parliament relies on any other governmental agency or institution to make sure that its business goes on, it will never happen. We need this institution to have the powers to be able to arrest these people, to arrest and present witnesses before the committees. And I am in support fully of the proposition by Senator Osotsi to give this House those powers. Mr. Speaker, these are powers that I know you will exercise judiciously. You will not be doing the Kamata Friday that we have seen other agencies doing. This will be specifically... Mr. Speaker, protect me.
Order,
protect me.
Order, senators. Proceed, Senator.
Mr. Speaker, I trust that the House will exercise these powers judiciously and that it will only be for purposes of making sure that people appear before our committees, and especially where we have failed to secure that attendance. Mr. Speaker, there's also a very interesting proposal here. If you look at clause 4, subsection 7, I think Senator Osotsi here wanted that this institution of Parliament should also have its own holding cells. Because you can see, Mr. Speaker, at 7A, he said that a person arrested under subsection 3 shall be held at such a place as specified in the National Police Service Act, or as shall be designated by the clerk for purposes of holding such persons. So, Mr. Speaker, you can find a nice place with tea and mandazi for them to chill there as they wait to appear before the committee. But at least they will be within the possession of the institution of Parliament. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, I want to speak to the fine that has been proposed to be imposed under subsection 5 of the amendment. Mr. Speaker, also enhancing the fine to 2 million shillings for specific conduct during the appearance of a witness before a committee. Mr. Speaker, there's one time, and members of the Parliamentary Accounts Committee, the CPAC committee, can bear me witness. A governor appeared before us, and when our chairman, the most honorable senator for Homa Bay, Moses Kajwang, asked the governor to take oath, he had the audacity to ask the committee, under which law are you asking me to take oath? Before, of course, we went ahead to educate him that that is a constitutional requirement when you are appearing before this House or before a committee of Parliament. Mr. Speaker, Senator Osotsi has gone further than the Constitution to impose a fine to those who refuse to take oath before committees. because we have seen attempts and even others refusing to take oath for whatever reason, because we would want that the evidence that is given to the House or to the committee be evidence under oath. Number two, he has proposed a fine for those who refuse to remain until the end, because these people are always busier than Parliament. They will appear before you and tell the chairman, we only have 1 hour, I have a flight to South Africa because it's my birthday. Mr. Speaker, the sort of contempt that we are being subjected to in the committees must stop. So this particular section, Senator Ososi, as the chairperson of PIC, will be able to hold those witnesses there until he releases them, until he has answered all the questions that he has asked to appear to answer. Number three, there are those who give dodgy answers. You ask a question and you can see the governor or the entity is dodging the question. Mr. Speaker, what we must do is to find these people who want to reduce the institution of Parliament to something of a joke. And then, Mr. Speaker, lastly, there is an amendment. Mr. Speaker, I don't know if there's a problem with the AC in the House, because I can see my lady colleagues.
Sergeant at Arms.
I don't know if it is me or it's because it's Ash Wednesday.
Kindly.
I think
Order.
it's because...
Order, senators. Certainly, Senator Gloria is uncomfortable. Kindly put on the AC. Can you switch on the AC, please? Order.
Mr. Speaker, I think it's because it's Ash Wednesday, a very important day of the calendar.
Order.
I'm not aware of any
Senator
other.
Gloria.
Lastly, Mr. Speaker, witnesses who fail to produce documents. We have had instances before the Public Accounts Committee where an entity, the accounting officer of an entity will show up to a committee and just refuse to produce documentation that has already been requested formally and way ahead of time. So, Mr. Speaker, as I finish, Mr. Speaker, I want to say that I hope our colleagues see that these are not frustrations that are shared only on the minority side, because we are all in these committees, we have experienced all of these things, and there is no other way to give this House teeth and to make sure that we are able to execute our mandate than to tie up these loose ends that will ensure that we are able to do our jobs effectively. Mr. Speaker, I second.
Honorable Senators, I will proceed to propose the question that the Parliamentary Powers and Privileges Amendment Bill, Senate Bills number 37 on 2023, be now read a second time. I will, at this juncture, allow intervention from senators, so if you're interested in making a contribution, you need to key in. Senator Manzo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me an opportunity to contribute on this very important bill. Mr. Speaker, Article 125 of the Constitution gives the House powers equivalent to that of the High Court. And what happens with the High Court